I remember the morning clearly. It was a Tuesday, quiet, cloudy, the kind of day where the world feels heavy on your shoulders. I was making coffee when my phone buzzed. It was my son, Daniel. Daniel rarely calls in the morning. He's always busy with work, meetings, deadlines, that's what he always said anyway. But that day, his voice sounded different. Nervous, almost shaky. Mom, can we come over later? I want you to meet someone. I froze.
Someone?
He'd been dating a girl named Rebecca for months, but I had only seen pictures and heard small things here and there. Daniel was always so private. Of course, honey, I said. But he didn't say great or okay. Instead, he said, Mom, please be kind. Those words stayed with me all day. Rebecca. When they arrived later that afternoon, Rebecca stepped into my house first. She was lovely, soft brown hair, warm eyes, and a smile that seemed controlled. Not fake, but guarded. Daniel followed behind her, holding her hand tightly. We sat down in the living room. I offered coffee. No one touched it. Then, after an awkward silence, I decided to break the ice. So, when's the wedding? I expected a shy laugh, maybe a blush, maybe Daniel chiming in proudly. But instead, Rebecca looked directly into my eyes and said, We got married yesterday. Just like that. No hesitation. No build-up. No ceremony. Just the truth, cold and sharp like a needle through my chest. My mouth dried up. I remember blinking, waiting for someone to say, just kidding. But Daniel lowered his head. Rebecca intertwined her fingers with his and whispered, She deserves to know. Marriage. They explained everything in pieces. They had a small ceremony. Just the two of them. No family. No friends. No photos. No celebration. Just paperwork, rings, and a quiet room at City Hall. I kept hearing their words, but none of them sounded real. I wasn't angry, at least not immediately. Mostly, I felt confused. And strangely hurt. I raised my only son alone. I had been there for everything. Every birthday, every heartbreak, every triumph. But not his wedding. I asked softly, Why didn't you tell me? Daniel swallowed hard. And that's when the real story began. For months, Rebecca had been receiving anonymous messages. At first, she ignored them, but they became more intense, more threatening. You don't belong in his family. He deserves better. You will ruin his life. Stay away. But then they escalated. I know where you work. I know your schedule. I know where you walk alone at night. And finally, if you don't disappear, I will make you. Rebecca had shown everything to Daniel, even the message that contained a picture of her car parked outside her workplace, taken from a distance. They went to the police. But without a clear suspect, all they heard was, We'll keep an eye on it. So, Daniel made a decision. A quick marriage. A legal bond. A way to protect her, legally, emotionally, publicly. A statement that said, She is my wife. Leave her alone. It wasn't romantic, but it was urgent. I asked, But who would want to hurt Rebecca? Why? Rebecca hesitated before speaking. My ex-husband. My eyes widened. Yes, she had been married before. Daniel had mentioned it once, vaguely, but never went into details. Rebecca explained that her ex had a history of control, jealousy, stalking, all masked behind a clean record and a charming public image. She had a restraining order, but he was wealthy, connected, untouchable. The police could never prove it was him, but the messages mentioned things only he would know. That was why they married quietly, to avoid drawing attention, to avoid giving him a chance to interfere. Daniel looked exhausted as he spoke. I wanted to tell you, Mom, but if anything slipped, if anyone overheard, it could have put her at risk. I was hurt. I understood. Logically, I understood everything. But emotionally, I still felt broken. You should have trusted me, I whispered. Daniel squeezed my hand. I did. I do, Mom. I just couldn't risk it. Not with him. Rebecca looked at me with tears in her eyes. I'm so sorry. I didn't want your first memory of us to be a lie or a secret. I believed her. But healing takes time.
Twist.
Weeks passed. One night, I received a message request on Facebook. No profile picture. No name. Just, "You think they're safe? You think he won't find out? She lies to everyone, even you." My blood ran cold. Attached was a photo of Daniel and Rebecca entering my house from the day they told me about their marriage. Someone had been watching. I immediately called Daniel. He rushed over. Rebecca trembled when she saw the message. But what Daniel found next was worse. A second message, sent directly to him. "She's hiding more than you know." Under it was a file attachment. When Daniel opened it, his face went pale. It was part of Rebecca's medical records, specifically, a form indicating she had been pregnant and lost the baby 6 months before she met Daniel. Daniel never knew. Rebecca broke down, saying she didn't tell him because she didn't want her past to define their relationship. Her ex had stolen her privacy, again. Daniel was heartbroken. Not because she had been pregnant, but because she had suffered alone and he never knew. Their marriage began under fear, not celebration. Now it was cracking under secrets and trauma. For days, they barely spoke. Then one night, there was a knock on my door. It was Rebecca. Alone.
Crying.
I don't want to ruin Daniel's life. Maybe his ex was right. Maybe I don't belong. I pulled her inside and held her.
"No, dear.
Someone wants to break you two apart. Don't hand them the victory." For the first time, she broke, truly broke, sobbing in my arms like a child. And that's when I knew. I loved her like a daughter. Daniel eventually hired a private investigator. 3 weeks later, the truth came out. The messages were not from Rebecca's ex. They were from his new girlfriend. A young woman obsessed with proving she was better than Rebecca. A wannabe perfect replacement. She had access to the ex's old documents, contacts, and social media. She mimicked his tone and threats. She forged the medical files. She followed them. She took the photos. She watched my house. All because she believed that Rebecca stole Daniel, a man she had never even met. She was never after Rebecca. She wanted Daniel for herself.
Terrifying.
She was arrested. Restraining orders were filed. And slowly life became normal again. Daniel and Rebecca renewed their vows months later, this time with me standing right beside them. A real ceremony. Flowers. Family. Laughter. I cried the whole time. And when the officiant asked, "Who gives this woman to be married?" Rebecca looked at me, not her parents. And she said, "Elizabeth does." My heart nearly burst. From Aunt Elizabeth. So yes, when I asked when the wedding was and my daughter-in-law said, "We got married yesterday," it shattered me. But sometimes life chooses unconventional paths. Sometimes love must survive fear before it can celebrate joy. And sometimes the people we meet unexpectedly become the family we needed all along. Thank you for listening, dearies. Stay safe, stay kind, and never ignore the small things. Darkness often hides in the details. If you enjoyed today's story, dearie, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It helps me bring you more mysteries, more confessions, and more stories from the heart. So go on, tap that subscribe button, and join our little storytelling family. Aunt Elizabeth will be waiting for you in the next tale.